newsletter for January 2013. Title: In a war fighting for the word, words really matter. In one of the stories of the miracles of First Communion, there is a true story of a young man, who was a servant of the king and was despised by his fellow servants. One of the fellow servants put a false message from the king to the soldiers at the castle where the young man would go each day, and told the soldiers that the first man to come into the castle that morning must be killed. The young man who used to be the first one to come into the castle every morning, but this particular morning he stopped by the church, went to Mass, and after Mass he prayed an extra long Thanksgiving, not realizing the time he had spent several hours in the church. Finally, later in the morning, the one that wanted to kill him wanted to make sure that his enemy was dead and wanted to be the first one to see his body. So therefore he went to the castle, not realizing that he would be the first one to enter. And as the evil man entered into the castle, the soldiers followed the instruction given to them, which was to kill the first one that walked into the castle. And therefore they took him and killed him. As they were taking him, he said, "I am the one that gave the order. It was not for me. I didn't intend it for me." But they did not listen, and they killed him. It happens sometimes that we say words, and we hope that their meaning does not come true. We hope that their meaning doesn't take effect. And we believe that because we intend something else, that those words will not have effect. This is the case of the general chapter of 2012, taken in the best case scenario. 40 priests of the SSPX united behind the Superior General and not behind Archbishop Marcel Lefebvre, put out a declaration, which declaration communicates something different than the Catholic faith which was formally communicated by our Society of St. Pius X. In this declaration, there are several statements which some say don't necessarily mean the modernists don't have the modernist interpretation that we think they have. In the declaration, for instance, it says that the Church's tradition has transmitted and does transmit and will transmit until the end of time the Catholic faith. There are two possible interpretations of this. One is that Catholic tradition that transmits refers to the living magisterium, which has transmitted in the past orthodoxy and does transmit in the present orthodoxy and will always transmit in the future orthodoxy. This magisterium in the present is the Vatican II magisterium of Pope Benedict XVI. This magisterium, according to this interpretation, has transmitted, is transmitting, and will transmit the Catholic faith. Now we know that the magisterium of Pope Benedict XVI has not transmitted, is not transmitting, and shows no signs of transmitting clear Catholic doctrine. This statement, therefore, is false. The doctrine that is communicated by this ambiguous statement of the general chapter indicates that there are not two magisteria, one of eternal Rome and the other of conciliar modernist Rome, but rather that the same magisterium that was from Jesus Christ remains in the present in the voice of Pope Benedict XVI, and it indicates that he is not communicating real error. This is false. It is contrary to the truth. It is not what we see, nor what we have taught as followers of Archbishop Marcel Lefebvre and Catholic tradition. The followers of Bishop Fillet claim this is not a false statement, because when we say that the tradition has transmitted and does transmit and will always transmit the Catholic faith, what we really mean to say is that only what the magisterium says, which is conformity with the truths of the past, is tradition transmitting. And what is not in conformity is not tradition, and therefore not transmitting. In other words, the statement which says one thing, they wish it to mean another. However, verba sunt ut sonant. We say in Latin, the words are as they sound, and not as they are intended to sound by the speaker, or as they are desired to be heard by the interior dispositions of the hearer. Rather, they are simply what they say, and what they say is what it means, and what it means is what happens. In the case of the miracle of the First Holy Communion, the evil man said, "Kill the first person that walks in the door." This is what happened. He did not intend that he himself would be that first person. He did not plan on being that first person. He did not foresee that it would be himself that would be the first, and that himself was the one who gave the command for his own death. So likewise, the 40 priests of the general chapter declared a modernist declaration, hoping that it would not be understood in a modernist way, that it would not communicate a modernist truth, and that it wouldn't have modernist consequences. But verba ut sonant. Words are as they sound. Modernist consequences come from modernist teaching.